Oh, I did not realize I was muted. My bad, Joe. I just repeated quickly. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Isabel Lopez, and I'm We're All America's digital organizer. I'm very excited to be hosting this episode of Refugee Matters. Refugee Matters is a podcast series that brings refugee and immigrant leaders and other subject matter experts to discuss rapidly developing policy issues and other topics important to our communities. Today's episode on Haiti is part of a 3 episode series called Disproportionately Displaced that seeks to understand why Black people are so disproportionately displaced by war, violence, climate, and persecution. Over the next few weeks, we will have educational conversations about the historical, economic, and political factors that have led to displacement and political crises in Haiti, Congo, and Sudan. We will also shed light on the US's response in each of these countries and hear firsthand accounts from forcibly displaced people. Follow We're All America on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to stay up to date about when the next episode will be dropping. Now, I would like to introduce our guests. Dr. Marlene Daut is a professor of French and African American Studies at Yale University. Her research focuses on the Haitian Revolution, Caribbean literary cultures, and racial politics in global media. She has authored several books, including Baron de Bastille and the Origins of Black Atlantic Humanism, Tropics of Haiti, and Awakening the Ashes, an intellectual history of the Haitian Revolution. Her forthcoming book, The First and Last King of Haiti, The Rise and Fall of Henry Christophe, will be published in January 2025. As a public scholar, her work has appeared in The New Yorker, The New York Times, and The Nation. Our second guest is very beloved by our community, Guerline Jozef. She is a leading human rights advocate, strategist, and thought leader focused on immigration, domestic violence, and child sexual abuse. She is the founder and executive director of the Haitian Bridge Alliance, the only Black-led, woman-led, Haitian American-led organization serving migrants at the US-Mexico border. She also co-founded the Black Immigrant Bail Fund and the Cameroon Advocacy Network. She has been recognized by Politico as one of the 40 most influential people on race, politics, and policy in the US. In 2021, she was also awarded the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Award. Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode. We have been seeing so much of Haiti in the news, not just this year, but I think, honestly, I remember first knowing of what was happening in Haiti with the 2010 earthquakes. So we know that there is a lot of history of colonialism, foreign intervention, and natural disasters that lay the foundation for the displacement that we see today. So, Dr. Daut, can you provide us with a brief overview of Haiti's history and other key events that you believe are essential to understanding the current crisis?
Thank you so much for having me here today. Yes, so Haiti, of course, has a long history. We are now at, over 200 years of Haitian independence. But Haiti actually started out as a Spanish colony and then a French colony in the early modern world and leading into the 18th century. And the French and the Spanish disrupted the native populations of the island through wars and disease until it was practically decimated, and replaced it with Africans transported from the continent to work the land on plantations. The main export crop was sugar. But in August 1791, the freedom fighters, I like to call them, and the enslaved population of the island rose to rebellion and decided to overthrow the slave economy. And Haiti was declared independent in 1804. On January 1st, 1804 is Haitian Independence Day. And it would be one thing if that were the end of the story, but of course, Haitian independence was reviled by the Western powers because slavery was ongoing in the colonies of France and Great Britain and Spain and Portugal, and the United States in North America still had ongoing slavery. And so there were all kinds of pressures on Haitian independence and Haitian sovereignty throughout the reigns of all of Haiti's first leaders, leading up to the reign of President Jean-Pierre Boyer, who presided over the unified Republic of Haiti, including the part of the island that is now the Dominican Republic, under one government. And the French King Charles X proposed in 1825 that Haitians should pay an indemnity as the price of independence to compensate the former French enslavers for their lost properties. And Boyer unfortunately agreed to this. And the indemnity was an astronomical amount for the 19th century, 150 million francs, even though a later French king, Louis Philippe, agreed to lessen the amount to 90 million francs total. Haitians ended up paying more than 110 million francs, about 500 million US dollars, which is between 22 billion and 44 billion dollars in today's money. That doesn't account for overall losses, of course, to the Haitian economy and opportunity costs. Again, this is one more inflection point that if it were simply the end of the story, might be one thing, but throughout the 19th century, the pressure of having to pay this large amount, plus repeated threats to Haiti's sovereignty coming from the United States in particular, culminated in a 19-year occupation of the country from 1915 to 1934, the first US occupation, which really kind of disrupted Haitian sovereignty to an extent where it was never fully repaired. After the occupation ended, Haiti saw a series of presidents who were not fairly elected or had not been brought to power in a sort of normally democratic way, including that of François Duvalier, Papa Doc, who after his first term declared himself president for life and became a dictator. When he died, the reins were passed to his son, Jean-Claude Duvalier, known as Baby Doc. And I'll stop at the Duvalier era ended in February 1986 in a process called déchoucage, when the Haitian people overthrew the Duvalier regime, but instead of bringing the chance for democracy and true independence and sovereignty, the international community intervened repeatedly, especially the United States, then later the United Nations and the core group, preventing the Haitian people from really truly choosing their own leaders and from those leaders being supported by an international community as equals on the world stage.
Thank you so much for this important background, Dr. Daut. I'm wondering if you could continue to talk a bit more about how the post-Duvalier years shaped up a lot of instability, a lot of persecution, and how that was also compounded with lack of preparedness for environmental disasters.
Well, I think something that is really important is that after the overthrow of Duvalier, instead of the international community, but really we're talking about the United States, supporting the unfolding of a truly democratic process in Haiti, what happened is that several military leaders who in fact had paramilitary training from the United States, from organizations in the United States, wanted to seize power for themselves. And this was perhaps contested during the reign of Aristide, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, during his first presidency by the US president and the US Department of State, who did not necessarily want those military leaders to come to power in Haiti, but other organizations in the United States were at opposition and did contribute to the instability that led to those military leaders overthrowing Aristide, establishing themselves in his wake. And even when Aristide was restored to the presidency through the Clinton administration, something had sort of irrevocably broken. And from that moment on, we see continuous interventions, foreign interventions, in tampering with elections, whether it be at the very highest levels or at more local levels, to the point where surveys done by international groups and aid organizations suggest that the Haitian people have lost a lot of faith in the process of elections themselves, aren't necessarily trusting of the outcomes, willing to necessarily accept them or view them as legitimate. And that is sort of what has brought us to a place where Haiti has leaders who must sort of ingratiate themselves to the core group, to the UN, to the United States in order to get into power, to remain in power. And so this has led to several kind of very weakened presidencies, including the presidency of René Préval, who was president at the time of the 2010 earthquake. And after the earthquake, many aid groups came to Haiti and were operating in what I can only describe as a sort of cowboy fashion, with very little oversight of what they were doing, with often the right hand not knowing what the left hand was doing, often cutting out the Haitian government or not consulting them at all, or in fact, several programs where no one actually responsible in those organizations could say what they did, where the money went. There's, of course, the infamous story of the Red Cross squandering nearly $500 million US, and only building a handful of homes. So the infrastructural problems are internal and external in Haiti at the same time.
Thank you so much for all this very, very important context, Dr. Daut. And I think this is a really good transition into talking about the broader context of displacement. So we know that what is happening, what is driving so many Haitians to seek safety is a mix of colonial legacy, political instability, persecution, human rights abuses, and environmental disasters. But we also know that this instance is repeated in a lot of predominantly Black countries. So I would like to ask the both of you, in your opinion as subject matter experts, why do you think that Black people, including Haitians, face such disproportionate displacement compared to other groups? And how do you believe the international response in crises in predominantly Black countries differs or is inconsistent?
Thank you so much, Isabel, and thank you, Doc. Thank you so much, Dr. Daut. It's a pleasure to just be sharing this space with you today, and thank you for really laying the history behind where we are today, and really centering the colonialism history and the impact that continues to have in Haiti, and the way that the United States and majority countries such as Canada, France, and others continue to play a major role in Haiti's affair, and specifically the current instability and destability in Haiti right now, which is partly the vehicle behind pushing people through forced displacement to make this extremely dangerous journey from Haiti. I can go back to recent migration of Haitians and then bring that into migration of displaced people of African descent on a global scale. But one thing you mentioned, Isabel, is the earthquake of 2010, when over 350,000 people died that day and millions of others became displaced. And we saw that a group of people, mostly young people, through a labor program in Brazil, left Haiti to participate. They left Haiti after the earthquake around 2011, and then they made it to Brazil late 2011 all the way until 2012. But unfortunately, we saw another forced displacement of Haitians primarily, but also also other people from majority African countries, including the Congo, Cameroon, and Senegal, leaving Brazil around 2014 and making the journey to the United States. And when we asked the people, first of all, what happened? With the Haitians, they made it clear that they were really, they migrated to Brazil, and they really helped to build with for the World Cups and the Olympics that were happening in Brazil. Unfortunately, the economy of Brazil collapsed. The political turmoil also started in Brazil, and they were the first group of people to feel the weight of the system and really being pushed out, forcing them to be displaced once again. As newly migrant in Brazil, they didn't have the support that they needed. That is what they were telling us, and thus they made the journey, incredibly dangerous journey, to walk from Brazil, crossing 11 borders in search of life and safety and protection, making their way to the United States. Many of them died on the way. Many of them died in the Darien, which is one of the most dangerous places in the world, and definitely the most dangerous place in the Americas. We saw young men, young women. I have been there. I have seen it with my eyes. I understand clearly the hardship that people had to go through. But let's not forget that people also in 2014 started migrating to Chile. And they migrated to Chile for various reasons, because they were still fleeing extreme conditions, including political turmoils. They made their way to Chile and they started mostly working in the agriculture sector. And then now in Chile, we saw they were also forced to flee Chile one more time, following the same journey from people coming from Brazil, due to mostly anti-Black racism and ethnicity. So we have people fleeing Haiti due to violence, due to many other issues, including the earthquake. And now they make it to a secondary country where they can no longer survive and they have to flee again. I want to go back though a little bit further down in the 1970s, 1980s, when people fleeing Baby Doc, Papa Doc, as Dr. Daut mentioned earlier, as refugees leaving Haiti, coming to the United States, we clearly saw how the United States responded by literally encamping them and imprisoning them and caging them in places like Guantanamo Bay. And understand clearly that the Guantanamo Bay and the immigration prison system in the United States was created and built to cage Haitian refugees. Want to clarify that. Continued the use of Black bodies to in cage spaces in the United States, or under United States government overview in places like Cuba, in Guantanamo Bay. And we saw how that absolutely destroyed the Haitian American diaspora, when they themselves literally said that the Haitian refugees, or Haitians in general, were carriers of AIDS. To the point where Haitians that were in the United States and in any other countries around the world were forced to deny their identities, were forced to try to pass for others, because they were afraid that if anyone knew they were Haitians, they would be targeted. The reality is, I spoke to a professor in New York City, and he shared his experience with me. And he said at the time he was teaching Black history at a very prestigious university in New York. And he went to give blood. And it was one of his students who was there to register at the registration. And the student looked at him, knowing that he was Haitian, and said, "Professor so-and-so, unfortunately, we cannot accept blood from you." At which point he said, "What do you mean?" And she pulled a piece of paper and showed to him we are not allowed to receive blood from people of Haitian descent. And he said, but I have been here in this country for 30 years. And she said, it doesn't matter. Maybe even if you were born here, we will not be able to accept the blood from you, because according to the CDC, according to the United States government, Haitians are carriers of AIDS. So therefore, we were banned to participate. Just want to clarify that. So that event really destroyed and nearly completely annihilated the Haitian American diaspora, and really forced us to live in the shadow of the system. So coming back now to the new flow of migrants and immigrants in the United States who made the journey from Brazil, from Chile, from South and Central America to the United States. And I just shared the stories of how they walked by foot to make it to the United States. I clearly remembered when I first met a group of 12 young men and women in 2014 at the US-Mexico border. And my first question was, what are you doing here? And how did you get here? And they looked at me and said, Madame, we walked. And most of us died on the way. And I said, say no more. What can I do to help? That's when I began to look into the way that Black immigrants and Black people in general are being used, violated within the immigration system and within all systems at large. So we really continue to look into those extreme conditions, into how we as a people, we as a country continues to inflict the same violence on Black bodies, this time towards Black immigrants. And we see that from immigrants coming from Cameroon, from Ethiopia, from Senegal, that are imprisoned. Today, this morning, we are in the process of paying a bond of $20,000 for a gentleman from Jamaica. Because when it comes to Black immigrants, the high toll of bond, even for those just seeking asylum, is astronomical. So therefore, we see the continued violence on Black people through migration, through displacement, and through imprisonment in the United States. I can stop here and then we can continue with other questions.
Oh, I would just add that I think it's important to also, and thank you so much for laying that out so beautifully, Guerline, and this terrible history, but which you so succinctly summarized, is that the issue with Haitians and HIV, I think I want to point out that it was not true also, which was the other part of it. So the CDC had put out these guidelines that said that blood banks and people in general needed to avoid the 4 H's. And those 4 H's were hemophiliacs, heroin users, homosexuals, and Haitians. So this was all the way down terrible health policy, terrible public health policy. But the research, thankfully, of social scientists and medical professionals like Paul Farmer, in his very famous book, AIDS and Accusation, he not only shows the toll that this stigma had on Haiti and Haitians living in Haiti, and as Guerline pointed out, those in Haiti's many diasporas, but that it was not true. And in fact, Haiti, out of all of the countries in the Caribbean, had the lowest rates of HIV of any other country, including Martinique and Guadeloupe, which are formal departments of France. So parts of France, like Hawaii, is a part of the United States. And so even though the CDC later printed a retraction, that stigma stayed. And to this day, there are still people who believe this. There are still people who say it and write it. And it has immeasurably harmed the Haitian people. That stereotypes are not just about what people think about someone else, that based on racial prejudices or some other kinds of prejudices. They can actually lead to material policies and actual harm. The CDC created a policy whereby Haitians could not give blood that led to other policies that restricted immigration of Haitians into various places in the world. And so it's really important to remember that it's not just that these stereotypes made people feel bad or alienated them. They actually led to people being materially harmed. And in the cases of migrants who've walked all of these ways and made journeys in boats only to be turned away, have led to people dying. And so I just wanted to put an exclamation point on all that Guerline said, that these are critical histories, and it's critically important to recognize what these policies do to actual people who are affected by them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Daut and Guerline. The points that you both make about how harmful stereotypes can be and how misconceptions and ignorance can turn into literal harm that kills people, that disenfranchises people, keeps them alienated from forming part of our society, cannot be overstated enough in this conversation. And the impact that it ends up having on the policies, Dr. Daut, that's a great segue to the next question that I wanted to ask, which is, I guess it's a two-pronged question. I wanted to see how the challenges that Haitian migrants are experiencing right now, compared to historical challenges, how have they been exacerbated with the policies from the Biden administration? And what are specific actions or policies that the US can take to better support Haitian asylum seekers?
You want me to start, Dr. Daut? Okay, merci. We are currently in the fight for temporary protected status, TPS, for Haiti. We have been fighting for over a year. It's been an uphill battle, something that should have been extremely simple. The same way that we saw the United States within a week and a half of what we were witnessing in Ukraine, when we, the Haitian Bridge Alliance, and others were at the border receiving the asylum seekers, the migrants from Ukraine, in a very humane way. Within a week and a half of that, the United States put in place temporary protected status for Ukraine within a week and a half. It has been extremely difficult. It's been a year close that we are fighting to get TPS for Haitians, and it hasn't happened. So to show you how the policies and how the racial prejudice is very much at the root of immigration and the way we receive people. So right now we are fighting for lives of people whom, if they do not receive this temporary protected status, will be at risk of deportation. In addition to that, will not be able to provide themselves because they will not be able to have access to work permit. They will not be able to have access to jobs. They will not be able to really be able to attend school. So this is a fight for the lives of hundreds of thousands of people that we should not have to be begging, this administration specifically begging to provide, when we know how easy it is to do when they choose so, and when it comes from people of European descent, when people coming, fleeing war in Europe, those decisions are being made within a few hours, and announcement within a week. So I want to highlight that. Also, the fight for TPS for Mauritania has been going on for 3 years. The fight for TPS for the Congo that is currently in extreme conditions, in part because of involvement of the West, including the United States. We are still begging and fighting for TPS for the Congo. In addition to that, we are fighting for TPS for many South and Central American countries, but really want to highlight the fact that when it comes to people of African descent, it is almost and nearly impossible for us to do anything and for our humanity to be recognized. For us to have a dignified support system, we have to prove that we are human, deserving of support, deserving of respect, deserving of to live, basically. Want to highlight that. But we really see how current policies continue to bring in the lack of inclusivity as well. We hear the narratives of people at the US-Mexico border, but we never really saw the stories of Black people at the border until we came to the stage and forced the narrative and forced the realities of Black people at the border to be at the center and to be in the forefront. We should not have to push so hard, but this is where we find ourselves in 2024, where Black lives continues to be stereotyped, as we mentioned before, continues to be mistreated, and the stigma right now when it comes to people of African descent is the moment we show up asking for asylum, for example, we are being categorized as economic migrants. And we all know that there is no asylum, there is no base for asylum. There's no asylum based on economic issues. But because the first thing they do, even before hearing the stories, to understand that this woman just fled extreme gang violence, extreme political turmoil. This woman this LGBTQAI plus woman just fled, violence and extreme conditions. The first thing they put is they see you as economic migrants, so therefore you don't qualify for anything until and unless you're able to fight to make a case that they don't believe. Because they tell the migrants from Africa that their IDs are not valid, that their documents are fake. And all of those things compile, right? The unfortunate realities that at the end of the day, we have to continue to fight harder, longer, just to justify our very existence. I can stop here and pass it to Dr. Marlene.
Yes, thank you so much. I want to talk about the classification system because this is, of course, a very long-standing way that determining asylum, whether or not it would be granted, has been determined, which is the person a political refugee or an economic refugee? And this is, to me, where you see, historically speaking, the greatest disjoint between what the state, as in the United States government, is saying and what the media is saying. For example, right now, if you were to look at coverage of Haiti in the US media, but really in the international media, all you're going to read about is gang violence and all manner of atrocities and kidnappings and all this instability and insecurity. And then yet when you get to the level of the government, they're saying, oh, well, these are economic refugees. They're fleeing Haiti because Haiti is poor. They're fleeing Haiti so that they can make a better life for themselves somewhere else. When actually the reality is that, as Guerline alluded to, these migrants are fleeing because of conditions that were set up by the world powers, namely the United States, but also France and Canada and the United Nations, and then, of course, the core group. And that these conditions that are being called economic cannot be separated from the political. And that is not even paying attention to the fact that during the Duvalier era, when the United States saw an influx of immigrants that they called boat people, because they came over largely in boats and tried to reach Miami, that there was violence happening constantly on the ground. So even though there was poverty, extreme poverty in Haiti, these were not people who were fleeing simply because, this sort of stock adage is they want to make a better life. They were fleeing so they could have a life. They were fleeing to have the right to live. And I think one thing to recognize is that while, of course, in the United States, Haitian migrants, historically speaking, the Haitian American community and the diaspora, after a few generations, tends to do very well. This doesn't change the fact that immediate migrants, especially those who came at the tail end of the Duvalier dictatorships, were treated horribly, were sometimes detained with no trial, with no decision or judgment for years, in inhumane conditions. Sometimes people who had been living in the United States undocumented for years, who never remembered Haiti because they were a child, were deported to Haiti and forced to live in a place that they did not recognize as home. And this is a situation that does not just happen to Haitian migrants. It also happens to immigrants in France, who are sometimes, because they don't have birthright citizenship, even if they are born there, to parents who do not have proper documentation, are not French citizens, will be deported to Algeria or Morocco or somewhere in West Africa, all usually former colonies of France, places they've never lived in their entire lives. And so I think when we're talking about refugee crisis and migrant crises, there are so many different strands, because it is a question of human rights. It's a question of foreign policy, domestic policy, and it's a question of how we frame things to decide who gets to be treated as a human, which is often conflated with being a citizen. And having rights of citizenship in Western countries, for lack of a better term, means that you have the right to humanity. But if you don't have the right to that citizenship, the government can do almost anything to you, including incarcerating you without due process and without representation. If you are arrested in the United States, you will be read your Miranda rights and told that you have the right to representation. And if you cannot afford it, representation will be given to you, provided to you. That does not exist for incarcerated migrants. You can be incarcerated technically indefinitely. And that is inhumane and against all the principles of human rights that we constantly proclaim are absent from the countries these people come from. We say Haitians, human rights violations in Haiti, but the immigration system is a huge vector of international human rights violations in our own country, in the United States.
I would like to add, thank you so much, Dr. Daut. Also, the case of Jamaican and other Caribbean immigrants in the UK, where they also continue until today, deny them citizenship, even those who were born of Jamaican parents, if they were not able to prove that, will be subject to deportation to mainly, as Dr. Daut mentioned, to former colonies of those Western countries. When it comes to deportation, what we see is a clearly violation of human rights, but definitely in the case of Haiti, a clear example of continued violence from the international community, especially from the United States, where we continue to fight the deportation. Understanding that recently the deportations that have been happening to Haiti in the middle of the crisis. I'll share a clear example with you. One of the month recently, the United States sent 2 flights to Haiti, 2, within 30 minutes of each other. One was a deportation flight, one was a rescue flight to rescue, quote unquote, US embassy personnel out of Haiti. But the same day, within 30 minutes, there was also a deportation flight carrying mostly asylum seekers from the United States and dropping them in Haiti, never to be heard from again. Wanted to highlight that. Also want to center for those who normally say, but why are those people coming here? They need to fix their countries. Why don't they stay home? Why are they coming here? We want for them to understand that people are mostly being displaced and being forced to come here due to US foreign policies in Haiti, due to foreign interventions in Haiti, as you heard from Professor Daut, right? When we look into Haiti current demise, we look into the agriculture sector. When we have US president, at the time President Clinton, literally completely destroy the rice farming industry in Haiti that is continues to be the main crop of the country, literally making it impossible for the rice farmers to survive because he has decided that the overstock rice that we have in the United States needed a dumping ground, and the dumping ground became Haiti. What did that do? That provided a pathway for rice farmers in Arkansas and other places to literally import the rice in Haiti because we could no longer farm our land. The President Clinton initiative in agenda completely destroyed the very fabric of the Haitian economy. In addition to that, previously, Marlene, I don't know if you remember the targeted Black pigs in Haiti, which was once again a staple where the farmers will raise their pigs to be able to provide for their families and pay for their children's schools. That was destroyed, and I witnessed that myself, to the point where those people were able to raise those Creole pigs that they call them, the Black pigs that were native to the country, were forced to literally now buy imported baby pigs from the United States that required a very specific diet that they had to buy from the United States, that made it impossible for them to do and impossible for them to survive. The poultry industry, the same thing, saying that we have a disease that attacked the poultry industry as a way to now import extra poultry from the United States, from other places to Haiti, because they had and they needed a space to dump those products. So this completely destroying the very livelihood of the majority of the country, making them displaced and forced to flee because they could no longer survive, because the United States and other countries imposed those imported rice, poultry, pork upon the entire country. In addition to that, and maybe Marlene, if I may call you by your first name, go back into really addressing the fact that the United States invaded Haiti in 1914, 1915, and they occupied Haiti for over 25 years. And go back also to the fact that upon the Declaration of Independence in Haiti, the United States put a full embargo on Haiti, forcing them into poverty. And I want to say one thing. Many times we hear Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Haiti is the poorest country in the Americas. We want to understand that how is it that the richest colony, and I repeat, the richest colony becomes the poorest country? It has been impoverished due to the fact that the United States put this embargo on Haiti, due to the fact that, as you just heard, Haiti was forced to pay France and continued to see occupation, intervention, that we are in the middle of yet another US-led, US-backed, core group inflicted intervention into Haiti right now. Dr. Daut, if you could please go into more detail so people really understand how we got to where we are.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's really important to point out that the trade embargo that the United States imposed on Haiti from 1806 to 1810, starting under the presidency of Thomas Jefferson, was designed to actually impoverish Haiti, it was designed to do that because the United States needed to prove that free labor could not be as profitable as enslaved labor, because the United States is busy trying to preserve slavery and save slavery. And since the Haitian government has already declared that slavery is a crime against humanity, using those words, that no person should ever be enslaved anywhere or in any time, what argument are people in the United States government going to use, but not just the US, France, Great Britain, is, well, what about our profits? And so you really see that kind of capitalistic hold that even in the abolitionist anti-slavery class, most people at that time, which is to say 1806, the end of Dessalines era, are still arguing for gradual emancipation, to give these nations time to figure out how they will make money without slavery. So it is orchestrated. When the embargo is passed, US merchants who are import in Haiti, who have been trading with Haiti since Haitian independence in 1804, will no longer trade with Haiti. They pull their money out of the Haitian merchant houses, leads to a flour shortage, leads to a linen shortage. People actually died due to the embargo. If we fast forward to the US occupation, we see once more that what something looks like, what the cause of something seems to be, is not the actual cause, right? So in 1915, US Marines invade Haiti. The government says it's because Haiti's president, President Sam, has just been assassinated and they don't want instability to happen. But actually, the year before that, in 1914, the US government had impounded all Haitian government revenue, about $500,000 US in gold stores, impounded it and put it for safekeeping in a US bank in New York, which today the Citibank is one of the subsidiaries of that bank. And that was so that Haitians could pay loans and fees to Germany, to other US banks associated with the indemnity that had been repackaged over and over to such an extent that it looked like Haiti was done paying in the 1880s, but Haitian government was still actually paying because of the way that the loans and the fees and the interest had been repackaged over the decades. And so when that occupation ended in 1934, Haitians, the US government installed, first of all, prior to that, a puppet president, Philippe d'Artigonave. And from that moment forward, the United States is going to have a hand in every single election, because the election that brought Francois Duvalier to power, the work of Patrick Bellegarde-Smith and others who have FOIA'd, who've requested these documents and received them from the US government, show that Duvalier did not win. He was the candidate that the United States wanted to be in power because he was an anti-communist. And the United States feared that Haiti, that did have some communist organizations there, as most places in the Americas did at the time, would fall under the sway of Cuba and other countries tending towards communism at the time. So the United States supports Duvalier. They support his son until the presidency of Carter. But once Carter is no longer in office, the United States continues to look the other way to gross human rights violations of the family they helped bring to power. So this is Guerline's point about when the quote unquote boat people, the migrant crisis really comes to a fore under the Duvalier regime. It is not simply because there is a dictatorship happening. It is because a person who is shored up by the United States, put in place essentially by the United States, has started creating conditions that are contrary to the existence of human life. And people left because under the Duvalier regime, they could no longer work. The Creole pig had been destroyed. Arkansas rice subsidies later would come in, but there was already conditions being set for people to move into the capital of Port-au-Prince, which should not have 8 million people living in it, out of the countryside, out of subsistence farming, under the purview and watch of the state now, instead of out in the countryside where they can be surveilled, disappeared, brutalized by the Tonton Macoute, which are, of course, the name for the colloquial name for Duvalier's police force, his henchmen. And once again, I must stress that this person was in office due to a foreign intervention that didn't look like a foreign intervention because there weren't boots on the ground when it happened. But make no mistake, that was the candidate the United States preferred, and that was the candidate who won and then declared himself president for life and became a dictator.
Thank you guys so much for all of the information that you've shared throughout the podcast. I wish we had more time to keep going because I know there is so much more to say. And when it comes to talking about foreign intervention and just the different ways in which the United States has created the conditions for the displacement of people throughout the Americas, throughout Africa, we could have an entire podcast just dedicated to that. But as we're wrapping up, very quickly, I do want to thank you both so much for sharing your passion, your history, your pain with us. Thank you for coming to this space and being so open about everything. We really appreciate that, and we really treasure what the Haitian community, the resilience, the strength. And one point that I just wanted to say is that a lot of times when we talk about what our communities are going through, it can be very easy to just see our people as, they just have bad fate, bad luck, bad things that keep on happening to us over and over and over again. But the strength of character and courage that we bring to ourselves is honestly admirable. And the Haitians that I have met have really taught me levels of integrity and of character that I have never seen in my life. And our heart really goes out from rural America and everyone watching this. Our hearts really go out to all of the Haitians in the border that are going through this inhumane treatment. So to close us off, I would love to give you guys a space to talk about work that you're doing and people that are listening that want to be involved in advocacy for Haiti, for TPS, to stop deportation flights, different ways that people can get involved.
Thank you so much, Isabel. I'll be very quick, but this could go for another 5 hours. Right, Dr. Daut? I want to highlight the contribution of Haiti throughout the world, specifically the Americas, understanding that Haiti was the country that backed, housed, and provided all that was needed for Simon Bolivar to fight the Spanish, and thus creating the liberation from Colombia to Venezuela throughout the entire South in Latin America. Wanted to highlight that because many times we forget, and many times people don't know the history of the freedom and how the entire South and Central America, from Colombia to Honduras, to Guatemala, to every country, really is connected to the fact that Haiti provided that support to Simon Bolivar. And actually the flag was created and sewn in Haiti to continue that freedom throughout the Americas. Wanted for people to remember that, and the independence of Greece and all of those other places, that Haiti has paid the price for freedom and liberation. So quickly, we are asking for everyone to join forces in the fight for TPS, the fight for deportation. We are going to send a link for folks to continue to share, to make sure that those things are happening. Please understand what, excuse me, as we say here at the Haitian Bridge Alliance and in Haiti, is un pile main chai pa lou, l'union fait la force. Many hands lighten the load. So we are really looking to continue to fighting with you, and we welcome your support in our fight for TPS, for stop deportations, and really providing support for all undocumented people in Haiti, undocumented people in the United States. But really say thank you for having us, and we'll continue to fight not only for Haitians, but for all people.
Thank you so much. It was really, so enriching for me to share this and have this conversation with you, Guerline. And thank you so much, Isabelle. I would say, please, also, in addition to, paying attention, never sleeping on the news and the policy, writing your Congress people, encouraging them to no longer interfere with Haiti's governance and to support local organizations on the ground in Haiti. In addition to doing all of that, please also support Haitians who are here, migrants who are here, Haitian scholars who are here as part of the Scholars at Risk program. If they are in your community, go to their talks, listen to them on the radio, write them notes of encouragement, because many of the scholars who are part of the Scholars at Risk program who are here now, they wanted to stay in Haiti and tried to stay in Haiti. They worked in Haitian universities up until very recently. They were dedicated and committed, and their lives were in danger, and they are now here in exile. And so the Haitian community needs your support, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so if you encounter Haitian migrants, please ask what you can do.
Thank you so much. And please go to the Haitian Bridge Alliance website. It's haitianbridge.org. Just send us a word, send us a message. We'll love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Just answering a comment that someone said in the chat, will this be available to rewatch? Yes, we will be posting this episode on YouTube to rewatch. And on the description, we'll make sure to include the links to Haitian Bridge Alliance, their website, their social media, the Scholars at Risk program, and any other links that the two speakers want to share. Thank you so much for your time and for staying with us until the end of the episode. And we'll see you guys for the next one.